What's going on to all my Euphoria fans out there? Now that's how you start a season. That is a great way to open up a season for a show that's been missing for almost 2 years. If you don't include the specials, obviously, that we got last year. But listen, we are here to talk everything Euphoria season 2, episode 1. New relationships, old relationships opening back up, new dynamics, and a well overdue ass whooping to end off this episode. And we're gonna break it all down for you all in this spoiler discussion. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the channel. My name is Elliot. I got some 2 amazing guests joining us here in a second. But before we bring them in, do me a quick favor, like the video, share the video, and drop some of your comments, pros, cons, thoughts, theories, and everything in between about what you thought about the episode and what you all hope to see in this new season of Euphoria. So let me bring in my guests here. This lady here has been on the channel multiple times. We do the Marvel talks, we do the DC talks, but now we're talking about some Euphoria. I knew we were good friends because she has some really good taste in shows, and this is one of them. I'm so excited to have her back on. I'm talking about Amanda. What's going on?
Hey, it's good to be back.
I know, long time no see.
Yeah, I'm good. You know, watching,
good.
grinding, doing stuff, but trying to
Yeah.
keep up.
It's starting. We had a little week there when it was like, we can kind of get, Spider-Man came out. We kind of, gathered our thoughts around that. Now we're back in the thick of things. Euphoria, Peacemaker, Tragedy of Macbeth. I mean, Ozark. I mean, it's back. And Scream. Amanda, Scream's coming out this week too. Can't forget about that.
I know. I'm so excited for everything, but like this first episode, killer. So I'm excited to have this discussion with you guys.
Man, this will be such a great time. But hey, if the people are not familiar with their amazing content, why don't you let the fine folks know where you're at and what you're all about?
Yeah, well, I'm a film critic and entertainment journalist. You can always find me over at AMX ND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can check out my website, candidcinema.com, and my YouTube, Candid Cinema. I have my Tragedy of Macbeth review up, my Tender Bar review up, and my Lost Daughter review up on the website right now.
A lot of great content, Amanda. So much stuff that you cover. So many great takes, so many great opinions. And guys, links in the bio. Check her out. She got some great stuff for you all. So definitely do so. So the next gentleman here, this is the first time on the channel, but I've been a fan for a while. He puts up some great content, covers TV, covers movies, and just has such a great attitude about it and such a great personality as well. So excited to bring him onto the platform and get his thoughts on tonight's episode. Talking about the one and only D from D Movieman. What's going on?
Hey. How you guys doing? Good to be here.
Doing good, man. Doing good. It's a good time to be back for Euphoria. It's been a long time coming, and we're finally back. We're finally back. So, hey, D, man, do me a favor, man. Why don't you let the fine folks know where you're at, what your content's about, and where they can find you, man.
All right. So, everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic. And my channel is just centered around film and the occasional television show and recaps, reviews, and reactions. That's a lot of what you can find. I recently did a review for Spider-Man No Way Home, and I am ready to jump in because there's a lot that 2022 is about to offer. And yeah, so feel free to check me out at D Movieman. That's no caps, D Movieman. Also saying Movieman D on Twitter. And then D Movieman again on Instagram. And feel free to check me out. And I'm excited to connect with you guys.
Definitely. And shout out to you, man. You got the milestone recently. I saw the video you put out, just kind of looking over the channel, man. A lot of great things coming your way, man. You got a lot of great content. And I'm so excited to have you on tonight to talk about Euphoria. It is here. It is here. So listen again, Amanda and D's information is in the bio, so definitely check them out. But Amanda, starting with you first, before we get into the second or this first episode of the second season, Euphoria. What's your love for the show? What's your spirit animal from the show? And just your overall thoughts about this incredible show that we got on HBO.
Oh man, I was saying this to you before. It's just like it's a vibe. I can't even explain it. It just throws you into this world and this atmosphere. It just consumes you for an hour every single week. And I binged the season this week just to like as a refresher. And at first, I kind of like connected with Kat Barbie Ferreira the most. Not to the extent. Let's just make that very clear. That it's not to the extent that it shows in the show. Okay, is that what I'm saying? But on like an emotional level, I connected with her. But my girl is Sydney Sweeney. It's Cassie. I absolutely love her so much. And I'm really excited for this season to see her grow as an actor as well, because that's what I've been hearing. I've been reading so much stuff about her role and her performance in this season, so I'm excited to see where that goes. But this show is just incredible. Z is phenomenal. Like, what, there's no words for her, and she won an Emmy for this too, which is like incredible. So yeah, like everyone is top notch, 100%. And this season, you started off with a bang, fam. Like it's great.
It was a great way to start. And D-Man, same for you as far as just kind of your spirit animal, someone that you can relate to in the show, as well as just kind of how did you stumble upon it, your experience with the first season, and your excitement level going into this new season.
Definitely. So I want to say how I found out about Euphoria. I think I probably was watching Insecure. This was probably a couple of years ago, and I remember they usually do their here's what's coming up for, I think it was probably 2019 at that point. And I just remember seeing this clip of Zendaya. Of course, I didn't know who her character was at the time, and it showed this image of a hallway like tilting, and then her character like falling. And I was like, oh, like what's, I had no idea like what to make of this. I didn't even know that show was like that she was going to be starring in that show. So I decided just to go ahead and check it out, no expectations, and yes, my eyes and ears were not prepared for what was presented on the screen. It was a lot to deal with. It was definitely giving me Requiem for a Dream / Kids. Just a lot of very graphic, in your face content. And and the thing is, a lot of times I'm not usually when it comes to the teenage genre, I'm not always the biggest fan of that genre. I think there are definitely great stories that can be told, but I think that sometimes there can be a disconnect. And I definitely, like, even with shows like 13 Reasons Why and that narrative, like, I had no desire to watch that show. So I was worried that going into this, I wouldn't necessarily connect to it. And there were definitely some moments where I had to kind of like second guess, my like, okay, can I really handle this? Like,
I know.
A lot being thrown at me. Yeah.
That's true.
I had to do a lot of breathing and find my happy place after some of these episodes. But I think overall, the vision for it is definitely something unique. It's something I absolutely appreciated. The characters are so extreme that it was difficult to kind of connect to one in particular. But I would say Kat and McKay are probably the two that jump out the most. And I think emotionally, I probably have the most empathy for Cassie, because I think she's a very tragic character, and I'm interested in seeing what the progression of her story and just her journey throughout this season is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, you guys summed it up perfectly. From my experience, I'm very similar to you, D Movie Man, and probably you, Amanda. That first episode when you meet Nate's dad and Jules and all the different stuff that the show throw down. It was very, it was like, oh, it is HBO. So I kind of forgot, like, oh, this very adult theme type of stuff with these kids in this kind of adult situation. But just blown away by the first season. Sam Levinson is such a very creative director. I know he's not for everyone. I don't know if you all have seen Assassination Nation, and of course, Marie last year, Malcolm and Marie. He has a very unique style. I enjoy it as I do this show, but I know it's not for everyone. And I know he bleeds a lot of his personal experiences from teenage life and just people that he's met throughout his walk of life. So I'm a fan of him, but again, I know the show is not for everyone, but it's for us, and we enjoy it. And I'm so excited to be back in this second season and breaking it all down with you all. So we're going to jump right into this second episode. So again, full spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the episode yet, go check it out and come join the conversation later. But if you have seen it, you are in the right place. So kicking it to you first, D Movie Man, as we kind of open up the episode, which I think it's pretty safe to say this is one of the fan favorites in regards to supporting characters, and that's Fez. He didn't get his own intro last year, his backstory. All of the main characters, we got a little bit of their backstory, a little bit of, in their past and their parents and their complications, but Grandma G. I don't know if they gave her a name, but Grandma was a G. She was a straight up gangster. We see her walking to the strip club with her pistol, shoots Fez's dad in the leg, and again, tossing to you first, D. What's your thought of Grandma G in this intro with getting a little bit more backstory on Fez?
I was here for Grandma, like absolutely. I mean, literally came in guns blazing. And Fez, actually, and I totally forgot about Fez, but Fez is another character that I connected to and had some empathy for, because I don't know. I was drawn to just his demeanor and his personality, and just his connection with Rue, even though there were some complications to their relationship.
Yeah.
But I loved seeing. I think that's something I appreciated about the show in general, and took away from just it being graphic content all the time, was diving into the backstories and seeing like what these characters have been through, what has shaped their ideologies, how they view life, and things like that. And so with Fez, having a grandmother raise him in that way, and I appreciated on some level the fact that she was willing to like go that hard for him. The fact that his seeing the black eye and all that, she was like, "Look, no, we're gonna fix, flip this situation around, and you're
Yep.
gonna come with me, and that's the end of that." And who's gonna who's gonna change that? Who's gonna change your mind about that? So I
Yeah.
thought that was a great way to open. Hearing the OJ's music playing during that sequence and everything, I loved it, and it completely took us back to those moments from the first season where we see his grandmother lying in bed, and we have
Right.
no of what the story is there. So getting that right out the gate, I thought that was excellent for me.
Couldn't agree with you more, because it just adds so much more depth to the character in a sense. Again, it is sometimes nice to have like a mysterious character. You don't have to learn everyone's back. Like, I hope we don't get like a backstory of like Nate's dad, or go into the backstory of other characters that we don't really need that much context. But I think it was helpful to kind of get a understanding of Fez, and kind of that lust for family, and kind of how he connects to Rue in a certain sense, and obviously Ashtray, how that came about, and that brotherhood, and what that boy is willing to do to keep his big brother safe. But
So cute.
Amanda, tossing it to you again. We meet Grandma G. She's coming in, like Dee said, guns blazing. Don't care what anyone has to say about it. But what did you think about this grandmother? And again, just adding more layers to Fez, who again, he's a fan favorite for me. I love his swag, is this
Yeah.
it's cool persona.
He's so great, and I'm happy they saved him for this opening, because obviously it sets up the luggage filled after. We'll talk about it, but like it's just the fact that like we saw it in the trailer for the show. It's like it sets up the entire season. So it was really cool to have that opening, get a little bit more of Fez. I absolutely love the grandmother, because she was also in The Irishman, because I saw her and I heard her, and I'm like, damn,
Oh, yeah,
like that. I'm like,
makes sense.
I'm like, that's Joe Pesci's wife. I was like, this is so interesting. I'm like, why would this click? But obviously it's me, it would click. The cover of Don't Be Cruel was fantastic as she was walking. I was listening to it. I'm like, my dad's a massive Elvis fan, so it just clicked in my head. I'm like, this is smooth. Like, it sounds killer. But yeah, I echo what Dee said. It's really great to see these backstories, to see how Fez became Fez and what family actually means to him because of what happened to his father. So I thought that was really interesting. That whole sequence was wild as hell. I sat back. I'm like, okay, we're going there, like right off the bat, 5 minutes in. I was like, great. But Fez is a great character, and I want to see him grow too. And if anyone deserves a bit more screen time, it would be Fez, because we also see his connection with Rue within the first sequence as well, and his relationship with her and how much he trusts her.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really cool, and I'm excited for Fez. I really am.
I agree. And just a couple questions. Amanda, do you think, what's the bigger possibility this season? Do we meet Fez's mom at some point, or even Ashtray's mom come in some way, somehow late in the season, or does the grandmother wake up from her illness that she's had for the past 8 years? Which one do you think will happen, if
Ooh.
any, between those two options?
I'm banking on the mom, maybe. If they're
Coming
going to
back to
add
the
another
picture.
character, I think that's what's going to happen. And I
Yeah.
think that Fez is going to get another episode, like dedicated to him. So I
Yeah.
think that'd be really cool.
What about you, D-Man? Do you think grandma's gonna have a miracle and wake up and want to do this empire with her grandson and Ashtray, or do you think we're gonna get one of the mom figures, or even maybe Fesco's dad comes back in the picture some way, somehow?
Right. No, I listen. I would love to see the miracle happen, but no, I think it speak to Fez's development and like personal growth and journey to see his mom or dad come back into the picture, because there's a whole lot you can explore with that. Like, how do you navigate a relationship with someone who you have not seen in I don't know how many years. And even the relationship that you did have growing up, it was obviously very physically abusive and damaging and dysfunctional, all of that. So then, now that you are at the forefront of this kind of burgeoning drug empire, how do you then have someone step back into your life and say like, "Oh, hey, here I am"?
Right.
So I think
Right.
that just for the complications and the conflicts and where that story could progress, I definitely want to see that.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I do, like you said, man. I do hope we do get like, even if it's not like a dedicated episode to Fez, just still get that backstory. And I think we will get more of him just in general with the present timeline with him and Lexi hitting it off, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. But yeah, the more Fez, the better, because I think he's such a cool character, and I love when shows do that when they know that the fandom has kind of gravitated towards the character and they want to see a little bit more screen time. So the fact that they do give us Fez right off the bat just kind of tells us that we can expect to get more of these secondary characters, maybe getting more to the forefront and learning more about them. But speaking of kind of learning more about them, we go to the finale where we see what happened with the little cliffhanger. Is Mouse gonna shoot Fez? Is Fez gonna shoot Mouse? Nah, little bro, little Ashtray coming in there with his hammer, like from Old Boy, and hits him upside the head, hits the guy in the face, and as we saw Fez say, what did you do? What did you do?" and that
Little
moment there,
legend.
just that relationship. Starting with you, D man, how do you feel about Ashtray and that relationship that he has with Fez, that he's willing to literally do anything and everything to keep his family safe?
Yeah, I will never forget watching that first season and seeing Rue go to her, I guess, wheeler, so to speak, and then seeing Ashtray. And I remember like staring at the screen. I was just like, I thought I had missed something somewhere, and so I was like, oh no, like he really is like like he's involved, like he's a part of
Yeah,
this process. And so really understanding now, of course, with this episode, seeing how his whole ideology has been shaped at an extremely young age. So
yeah,
he is kind of started in this, like from day one, basically to
yeah,
now. And I mean, you can't help but admire, even if it presents other problems or potential complications down the road. You can only admire someone who's willing to take charge and be proactive and assess the situation like that and say, you know what, let's just like cut to the chase and
yep.
let's just, boom, there we go. And now, go from here. So, Ashtray is a very compelling character, and it's just he's not a character I've seen before. I'm not used to seeing children, so to speak, depicted in this
In
way.
that,
So,
yeah, no,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very rare. It's very rare. Yeah,
right.
and that little kid too. I seen him in something else. I can't think of it right now, but he was in something else. He's a pretty good actor. He
Yeah.
seems like he's beyond his age in regards to his performance so far. But tossing into you, Amanda, in regards to Ashtray. Do you think so? First and foremost, we all agree that Mouse is off. Like he's dead. Like he killed him. He's dead. He's not like in a
Yeah.
coma somewhere. They put his body somewhere. So my question to you, Amanda, is: do we think that those actions are going to have some consequences? Because we all know a mouse. You don't just take a player off the table like that, and not have any consequences. So do you think that will come back and bite them in the ass a little bit later in the season?
Oh, 100%. We've seen it before. There's another big baddie that's tied to that kind of situation. So, yeah, I love that we see again that they're family no matter what, through and through. I understand that he shouldn't have done what he did because he just came out swinging, like Dee said. So I love that energy because I guess I'm like, for me, I'm an only child, so to see that kind of like ride or die feel between two different, people that were raised together that aren't really like blood related.
Yeah.
I really value that. And I love that kind of like loyalty and respect and genuine love between characters that I see. And I gravitate towards that. So even though it's a bit messed up, it's really great to see that he would just do anything for Fez and vice versa. So it's great to see that even in the situation that they were in growing up. So
Yeah, no, I agree, and yeah, I think there will be consequences for that. Deciding to hit him upside the head with a hammer, and we'll see who's going to be looking for Mouse, and his replacement. But going back now, so now we're in the present day. We see Rue in the back. Obviously we noticed she relapsed from the season 1 finale, and I know Amanda, you said you got a chance to see the special. Quick question for you, D. Did you watch those specials for Rue and Jules that we got 2020 and then the beginning of 2021?
yeah, I watched both of them. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not like I'm not really a fan of Jules, but it's a whole separate
Oh, we gotta get
situation.
into that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm just not a fan.
yeah.
But they were both really solid, and I
Yeah.
think that they needed those 2 episodes to push us into season 2. I think it was really necessary because
Yeah.
they're 2 of the biggest characters,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we kind of need to dive into the space between where that ending, where we leave off in season 1, and then
Yeah.
to start off in season 2. So
D-Man, did you get a chance to watch those specials as well?
I didn't necessarily watch specifically. I read the recap. Initially,
Yeah.
I was frustrated because I knew it was going to be. I didn't know what to expect when they said the special episodes, and then
Yeah.
I realized it was just going to be, which is fine. I don't need like a bunch of action or a bunch of things to be happening, but I kind of realized
Yeah.
it was going to be like we're going to sit and have a conversation. But
Yeah.
reading what actually was covered. It's definitely something you can appreciate, and it's
Yeah.
nice to do. And this show does it as well, but there's also a lot happening. So whenever we can just disconnect and step back and really explore like how these characters feel or what they have to say or like what's in their mind, and just in this very kind of intimate setting, I can definitely appreciate that. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And we'll talk about Jules a little bit later, man, because I'm definitely want to get your because out of the two, I definitely think Rue had performance wise, her and Komi we talked about it off screen. That dynamic and the chemistry was great. But I think Rue, or Jules, her story, like you just said, definitely sets up the second season because we didn't know in season 1 that her mom was an addict, and then they have that correlation between her mom and obviously Rue, and they're relapsing, and also we got some context of season 1 when she went to the Halloween party and the day that she found out that her mom was trying to see her again. So it definitely adds some layers to the character. And I'm really excited to get your thoughts on Jules a little bit later. But in this moment, I mean, this is where the absurdity starts to take place in regards to just craziness that Rue finds herself in, singing some Tupac, getting ready, to hit him up. And we see Mouse now has a replacement of, or to say, Fez has a replacement of the doctor that he stole the money from, the drugs from. And it's in the form of a character by the name of Lori, who is, from a Breaking Bad fans out there, is essentially like Walter White. She's an ex-teacher now turned into a drug dealer. And let's just say her operation is very different. We got the clothes scene taken off. We got them introducing themselves to Lori. D-Man, what do you think about Lori, and is this a character that we're going to be seeing in the future?
Yes, this is only the beginning for Lori. I think we've just cracked the door, and we're going to see the progression of that, especially with this complicated journey that Fez and Ashtray are about to go on. But yes, Lori just seems very. I don't know. Lori seems very worrisome. I guess I should say. She seems like a very quiet storm, and for her to have masked, this type of, I guess, system, so to speak, it makes you wonder, and especially to have been a school teacher, I thought it was interesting, even with the piece about, obviously being underpaid and the whole piece about teachers and all. Even now they kind of. There were a little bit of commentary there, but how she chose to now take this new path, and I'm wondering like how she. We obviously see that she isn't backing down or doesn't really take a lot of mess when it comes to her business.
Yep.
But yeah, this Lori, this is just the beginning for Lori, and I'm wondering what that will mean for at least Fez and Ashtray, if not other characters.
Yeah, no doubt. I wonder if she taught at their school at one point, as far as like, what is it, Eastbound is the name of the high school they go to. I wonder if she was a teacher. She didn't seem to know Rue, so maybe she was before Rue's time when she was a teacher, or a substitute teacher. But Amanda, we got like I said, a form of Heisenberg in the building as she demands them to take their clothes off, which to me was just and the guy starts dancing around. She's like, what are we into here? And this goes back to Rue. She just finds herself in the most uncomfortable, like what are you doing, Rue? This is the path you go down when you relapse over and over again. But your thoughts on Lori, her being this key player in the rest of the season, just your thoughts on this craziness within that scene, again, dancing and clothes off and all this stuff.
A mess. Like, it's chaos for what reason, I don't know. It kind of made me like go back to watching Titan, and there was like this really eerie scene in there where it was like violent, but the guy's dancing at the same time. Like, it felt like that kind of vibe. And for me, that scene kind of went on too long. And it was making me, I don't know if that was done like on purpose to make me feel antsy, probably because it worked. So I was sitting there like, is it done yet? Can I just stop watching this? Because it was just so uncomfortable. But I like the choice that they like they didn't have like Rue kind of like stripped down, obviously because she's in high school.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a bit too much. So I'm happy that he kind of not took her in there to give her the whole situation that
Yeah.
happened. Not
Yeah.
that, but I'm happy that they kind of shielded that. But Laurie's an interesting character, and I
She
like
is.
interesting characters. I want to see more of her. She piqued my interest when she presented everything to them, so I'm excited to see more of that. But no more dancing in that kind of just no. I can't handle it. It was just so weird, but yeah, it worked kind of.
The dance moves were definitely not on point, but I did kind of glance over. Forgot to mention as far as Rue, she does have a moment when she's in the car with what's her name, Frey or Fry, the girlfriend of the mouse's secondhand man, and she comes across heroin, and it seems like that was her first time being exposed to it, and now it looks like she has another drug that she's gonna maybe be exploring, which definitely kind of maybe foreshadows her exploring more drugs, because we all know when she's scared, has anxiety, or depressed, she always reverts back to the drugs. And now you're dealing with heroin, Rue. I don't know. We'll see what comes of that. But, as we get this transaction that takes place, we got this new business in order. And I think it's safe to say that, especially after the end of this episode, Lori, her house might be raided if Nate kind of finds out who, Fez is working with. So that can definitely kind of set the stage for maybe something that Fez thought a little bit too, didn't think about it, the long term in regards to what Nate's capable of. But off with the drugs, into the party time. Is New Year's Eve. And I think starting with you, Amanda, to me, this was very similar to season 1, Shook Ones Part 2, where we got most of our characters in one central location. We're bouncing from here to there and everywhere. And it's just so great how they're able to do all that within a single home. But your thoughts on, first and foremost, before we go to the party, Cass and Nate. I know you both have mentioned you're a fan of Cass, and it looks like she's going down this path of a very toxic individual. Your thoughts, Amanda, on this new relationship that I think they're going to explore this season?
I hate it. I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Like, what do you like? I was yelling at my screen. I'm like, don't do it. But Cassie and Nate is just, it's such a bad combination.
Yeah.
Because she's someone who's very emotional, and he is someone that will take advantage of her because of how emotional she is. And that just, it hurts because she's such a great character and she's such a great girl, but she makes bad decisions. And it's funny because, like, she literally said, I'd rather be focusing on myself. I don't want to make any more bad decisions. Yet you say yes to Nathaniel to get in the car. So I was like, of course, let's write that in. It's fine. It's great. Very nervous with that. I thought that he low-key roofied her because he gave her an open bottle, and I was like, this is not happening right now. I even wrote that down in my notes. I'm like, this guy did not just give her an open bottle. I freaked out.
You can't put it past him.
So I didn't know what he was going to do, but that pairing is just really odd. But of course, they got to stir the pot this season, I guess. But going back to the actual party, the camera works ridiculously good. Like you said, to have everyone in one room, chaos, like just fun chaos everywhere, trying to get to know what's happening in their lives, because it's the first time we're seeing everybody. So of course it's at a party. And again, like, it's a vibe. It sucks you in, puts you in a trance with these characters. And that's what's so awesome about what Levinson does with the camera, with the score and all of that.
Well said. And D-Man, toss into you, man. Just your thoughts on this new love triangle potentially with Cass and Nate and Maddie, and just your thoughts. For a second there, I knew they weren't like going to die because we saw the trailer. We know that they're in the show, but I'm like, are they going to get into a car accident? They're drinking and driving. He's not looking at the road. She's poking her head. I got a little Hereditary vibes there. I'm like, I hope they don't chop her head off. But D-Man, your thoughts on this new potential relationship and where it can lead for this season, but also throw Maddie in the mix, because we all know she ain't gonna have it. Your thoughts on this love triangle, man?
Yeah. So if you guys have seen Get Out, you know the scene where Georgina says no.
No.
And then she started the tears start coming. Like, that's where I was. I was like, oh, of all the decisions we could have made, like, and all things considered, as tortured as Cassie is, I think that of all the people she could have ended up with, at least in the first season, McKay was probably I guess the best of the bunch, given the circumstances, because unlike these other very I don't know, these other male figures who seem very toxic and just have a kind of like a single, a very one-dimensional view of her. It seemed like there was some dimension and some depth to how he saw her, how he treated her, how he was with her. So I thought that was, that was obviously great, which was complicated by the pregnancy and then, other pieces to that. But I didn't know where Cassie would go from here. I certainly didn't think that of all the characters that we might see her with, that Nate, aka Patrick Bateman of Psycho.
Oh,
I'm sorry. That is Patrick Bateman's
yeah.
protege. Like,
It's the spirit animal. Yeah, he definitely channels that. Yeah,
Literally.
absolutely. So I can tell you how my blood pressure would jump up when his character was on the screen, how my body would have like just tense up. I don't think I've been that I've had that much of a visceral reaction to a character since Blackjack Randall on Outlander. That was another one. That was another character.
Yeah.
And Nate
Yeah.
as well. So
Yep.
and I was rooting. I hate to say this, but I was rooting for a lot of bad things to happen to Nate, and the fact
same here. Oh yeah.
Really, we kind of got there, but then no. So he kept kind of escaping from consequences. Let's say that. And so here, I did not see him and Cassie coming at all. And again, blood pressure jumped up when she took that seatbelt off. I promised I did this. Oh no, please. And then she leaned out the window. I was just like, okay.
I thought Hereditary was gonna happen.
That's something like, her head's gone. Her head is gone.
I was so hopeful. I didn't think it couldn't have been anything too bad because we have to see like you said, the characters kind of continue on. I was like, something still really bad could happen. Yeah. And thankfully it didn't. But yes, pins and needles. Cassie, baby, what are you doing? What's going on here? I need you.
Couldn't agree with you more. And like you guys said, Nate, he's a predator, man. He preys on the weak, and Cassie was just there. And she, like Amanda said, she was holding on for a little bit. I don't want a relationship. I want to focus on me, but alcohol, persuasion, and here they are. And then, can't even leave out the third party of this triangle. Maddie, banging on the door, what you in there taking a dump, this, that, and the other. And obviously we know what they were in the bathroom doing. And that whole, you talk about again, just like she's going to get caught. She's going to catch her. And we'll get into all that. But again, this triangle will be very interesting to see between Cass, Nate, and Maddie and how all that plays out because, that's her best friend. I know even their relationship is very complicated with Cass and Maddie. It's just more so, I think, more superficial type relationship, more so than like a super like intellectual, thought-provoking, this is my girl, ride or die. It's just, two pretty girls. But we'll see what shakes out between those two. But it will be very, very interesting to see how all this plays out. But checking in with Rue, Amanda, again, this is our girl. Zendaya plays her so great, but we see she goes in a car. Well, first off, she's hiding from Jules at the party. They haven't spoken since the special where she goes to her house and, they say happy Merry Christmas or whatnot. But she goes back to the car, and Amanda, she's taking heroin. She makes her way back into the house. She meets a new character that we'll get into here by the name of Elliot. A great name for this new character here. Very excited to learn more about him. But Amanda taking the reins here. Your thoughts on this path that Rue's going down with heroin, taking more drugs, getting back into that mindset. Your thoughts on Rue?
Well, what are you doing, girl? Like, why? Just like for me, it's like if you're gonna do something, at least know what you're in control of. I know like you shouldn't be doing anything, period, but like you're pushing the boundary a bit too much. You don't know what's going to happen to you when you take that. Like, and also the choice of not showing that on screen was, I think that was a good choice to not show that on screen because that would be too much. But then the next scene with Elliot was really, really intense and considering everything that was going on at the party. But for Rue, it's like, I don't know. I'm scared for her. I don't know. Cause even Z, she put out she put out a message today on Instagram and on her Twitter, on all socials, that this season is gonna get really bumpy and it's gonna go to those places. And she put the disclaimer for everyone. So to see that, I don't know where she's gonna take this, and it's scary. So
Scary is a great word to use. D-Man, it's your thoughts on Rue trying this new drug and, trying it during, and again, as this speaks so to her and Rue and Jules' relationship and all that. Again, when she's stressed out, don't know what to do, she just runs back to the drugs. And now this is new drug and heroin, and also meeting this new character, which might be her Jules this season, someone that just takes her for who she is, and someone that's actually a drug. I don't know if he's an addict, but it seems like he's someone that's new to this area and someone she can kind of gravitate towards. So your thoughts on Rue and this new budding relationship with Elliot?
Well, I knew I could have told you even from, I guess, wherever we got to the point in the first season where Rue made the decision, like, hey, I'm going to make the decision to actually be sober, and with Jules as her motivation. First of all, just with Jules being her motivation, I already knew that wasn't going to end well, and I just knew, obviously, with the nature of this show, I knew that like this is not a happy ending type of show. So obviously something is going to happen, and Rue will end the season right back at square one, and that's exactly what happened. And scary is the correct word, Amanda, especially with heroin. I've watched films like, I think early years. Yeah. I watched films like Why the Fools Fall in Love and Ray and Lady Sings the Blues, and heroin is has always been a scary, very frightening kind of drug to me, even in the way that it's used, and like it's always kind of scared me. So even as soon as I heard the word heroin, I was like, oh no. I immediately tensed up because I'm like, this, the drug situation that she's in right now it's already not ideal, but that's next level. That's going down a whole new road, and now having to come back from that as well, that's going to be really difficult to watch. As far as Elliot, he seems like a very compelling character. It's something very likable about his character. Like I said, there are some complications with him being so close to drugs and kind of being someone who's pushing or facilitating drugs in the midst of where she is right now. But I am interested in seeing what this dynamic with Rue is going to be, especially with what some of the previews are showing and the conflicts that are going to come with Rue, Elliot, and Jules. Like that's going to be really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And it's so funny. I don't know if you guys, it was 2 years ago, I want to say, there was some rumors that one of my favorite actors in Hollywood, Calvin Harrison Jr., was going to be attached to this show. And I was so bummed that that didn't work. I think it was scheduling, but also I know as an actor, he said he wanted to kind of stay away from these high school roles because his first 4 films, he was a high school student, he was a young student. So I think he wanted to kind of gravitate towards something else. But I wonder if he was going to be that Elliot character, or if they wrote that character out and just brought someone in. But it does hurt my heart that Calvin wasn't a part of the show. But
I literally was thinking the same thing. I remember the announcement, like Calvin Harrison Jr. The scheduling conflict. He could easily be one of 2 characters. There's another character that we saw as far as Maddie. I wonder if he could have been either one of those.
Oh, the Travis guy.
Oh, true. Yeah.
It would be interesting. It would be nice if I don't know, season 3, hey, keep hope alive, but
he could be a college student. He don't want to be in high school. He could be a college student.
Moving on up.
But it would be really interesting to see how Elliot plays into the season, where he comes from, who his parents are, his backstory. We're going to probably get an origin of him and how he got caught into drugs. So it'll be really interesting to see how they play all that out. But we got a new couple on the horizon, ladies and gentlemen. We got Lexi, who is very exciting to see her get a little bit more to do this season. It's so crazy. I've been a big fan of her dads with Judd Apatow, her mom, and seeing her as a little girl in those movies. And now she's, doing her thing on TV and also movies. But D-Man, your thoughts on Fez, who, again, we all love Fez, but he seems like, Rue's a perfect example. He sometimes get people in situations that makes them uncomfortable. We know Lexi young and it seems to have a bright future, but your thoughts, the movie man, on this new relationship. Is it a good thing? Can she maybe get something good out of Fez, or is he going to have her go down that path?
Let me say that Lexi and Fez, another coupling that I did not see coming, although I don't have as many negative thoughts about this relationship, because I will say, like, the actual interactions between them, there was something kind of endearing about it, and
Yeah.
seeing them kind of connect, and just like their conversation, like there was something very kind of like heartwarming and kind of endearing about that. So kind of taking everything out, everything else out of the picture, that in itself was interesting and kind of fun to watch. But then when you bring context back in, it's kind of like, are you someone who can take her life in a positive direction? I don't really think so, especially after the choices that were just made at the beginning of the episode. And Lexi has really been more of a background character. She's obviously like
Yeah.
a part of the group, but I don't think we've gotten a lot with her. I don't think we've gotten like a full background
No.
moment with her. So so like seeing her interact with Fez, it's kind of like, oh, okay, so maybe now we can get more with her, because I think at one point, this is in the early episodes, but it didn't click to me that Lexi and Cassie were related, because there just wasn't enough of a focal point, and I still was kind of making sense of all the characters, and then I was like, oh, that's her sister, and I felt like I never got enough of her to then see their relationship and connect with them more as we went along. So hopefully, with this whole Fez complication, as terrible and complicated as that is going to be, I'm still sort of kind of here for it. I still kind of want to see how that's going to play out. Yeah.
I agree, man. Maybe she can get him out the game if she can have his influence on him, or it can be the reverse, and she can get in the game and be like her secondhand woman and kind of be Bonnie and Clyde. But Amanda, your thoughts on Lexi, and like the movie man said, we got a glimpse of her backstory. She's always been in the shadow of Cassie. Right? Cassie was the one that her mom focused on. Cassie seemed to have a better relationship with her dad, and then Lexi was just kind of the second kid and just kind of forgotten about. So I don't know if we'll revisit her perspective as growing up, or we might have touched on it. But your thoughts on this relationship, and is it good for is it good for Fez or bad for Lexi?
Right. So with what you just said, that we never got a backstory of it, like she's been neglected. So we get Fez like paying very close attention to her, being interested in her thoughts and everything. So maybe like she'll be pulled into his story, but like as this ray of light type of situation where like he can go to her to get out of it. Cause even it's really interesting because he took his sweater off before he went and did whatever he had to do. And it was like he changed. Like his face got like, everything changed, his expressions changed. But with Lexi, it was a general conversation. He was interested in that. So I think that's the pull between the two of them, where she's talking to him about other stuff.
Yep.
And it interests him, and in like books and God, like these intellectual questions. And I think that's it was such a cute moment. But like again, like I think that it's more of her pulling him out of a very dark atmosphere and being that light for him. And then him offering Lexi the opportunity to feel like seen. And I think that's really special that they can offer that to each other. And I'm here for that relationship. I really am. As long as she doesn't get hurt in the process, I'm totally here for both of them.
I agree, and I'm just picturing it now. If they do go down that dark path, if she wants to help Faz and he wants to get out, and she wants to maybe do a deal with Lori, and she's gonna get caught in the crosshairs, and it could all, and then it could tie back to Nate. Maybe he was the one that has a raid going on with Lori. It could just get messy. It can get really messy, and I really do hope that Lexi either can be acknowledging of his lifestyle and just tries to stay away from that side, or she can go head over heels and fall in love with Mr. Fez. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see that dynamic of those two playing out. But we'll see what comes of this. But like you guys said up top, the cinematography, when we see the history of the characters, when Nate, at this point in the episode, Cass is in the bathroom with the phone and hoping that her best friend doesn't catch her. But Nate looks at Fez. Fez looks at him. Nate looks at Jules. And it's just like, I felt like we were back in the show. It's like all the history and all the stuff and the complications of these characters. I was just so happy to be back in this world. But moving on, we see, going back to Cass, who was in the bathroom at this point, as Travis is making his moves on Maddie. And I don't know, I was kind of confused by why her phone went off in the bathroom, because it seemed like Lexi was calling her the whole episode, and it seemed like it was going straight to voicemail. So I don't know if it was like no signal, her phone was off, but
Maybe.
it's a show, so they had to get us a little bit of drama there. So we find out that she's in the bathroom, and I thought that she was going to get caught, but no, things work out for her favor. But it's inevitable; she will inevitably get caught with this love triangle. But especially with with McKay coming back on the scene, so. Tossing it to you, D-Man, when we got McKay in the building, having his interactions with Nate, and that weird interaction that Nate had with him a little bit later in the episode was just weird. And again, it sets the stage for you, just like, I want someone to hit him in the face, and it comes by the end of this episode. But just your thoughts on, I guess, how vocal of a character will McKay be with a character like Fez and Lexi getting more screen time? Does it take away from a character like McKay, or do you expect him to be involved because he's off in college and doing his own thing? Do you think he's going to be a character this season we can look forward to?
I genuinely hope so, because there is some. I think the obviously McKay is another character. It's hard to say, like, because we have so many characters. It's hard to say who is background and who isn't. I felt like McKay was somewhat relegated to the background. Like we still saw glimpses of him, but it wasn't like he wasn't a constant presence in the show. Right. So, and I thought that when we did get his backstory, I thought that was pretty compelling, and his what his father has kind of drummed into him as he's growing up. And I thought there was something to me that they might have been touching on. It was that scene where he and Cassie, were about to have sex, and then the guys came in, and then they had that whole moment where he was on the floor and they were filming him, and then his reaction to that was very, it was very intense. And even the scene, I thought it was so it was so telling, the scene where he is like, enraged and angry and tearful and emotional, and then he like just like slowly like pulls all that inside, and then like okay, and then he goes out and he's okay. So if we get into the depths of why McKay is that way, I would love to see that. And of course, he and Cassie are not done, and now that Nate is in the mix, that obviously is going to be more of a, because clearly Nate is now feeling like territorial, and now hey, I've kind of your territory, so what are you going to do about it? And we know Nate not back down. So
he's always pushing people's buttons. And to your point, D Movie Man, tossing to you, Amanda, in regards to how you think McKay is going to pay in this season. I think one of the plots that you were talking about, D Movie Man, was peer pressure and what parents thinking they're putting their kids on the right path, but how detrimental it can be to his growth and his focus, and him doing things that might be out of his character. So do you think, Amanda, we're going to get more of that story, or again, someone like Lexi and Elliot, new character in the Fez, that he's going to maybe be forgotten about, or do you hope the show somehow is able to weave his story back into the main plot?
It depends. I don't know. They could. I don't think he'll get more backstory. I think that specific scene that Dee was talking about, I think that was a lot to process for McKay, and that we know his character. We know who he is now after that one, and it was a heartbreaking scene. But for me, I'm waiting for a snap to happen, because they're both lying to him in this case. Maddie's a whole different story. I can't wait for that. But with him, I think it's like emasculating, because especially with that conversation, which was crazy just to listen to, I think the snap is going to happen in that case, and it's warranted because of who they are. You have one of your closest friends, and then your girlfriend, and it's like, well, shit, like, let's see what's going to happen with that. But yeah, I think that that's going to be his moment of the season to carry on from what we learned in season 1.
And I hope that snap comes back on Nate again. And maybe two ass whoopings in one season.
Let's go.
More. But I guess we can say there is a couple that seems to be on a good path. And I think from the trailer, this character, Kat, we talked about her. We didn't get much from her this episode, but I think we're going to get more of her in the future. But it seems like her and Ethan are on good terms. Amanda, your thoughts on, Kat? Obviously, we know she has her stuff that she went through last season, and I'm so happy her and Ethan finally, she told him what it was that made her kind of turn off on him. But do you think this couple's going to last? Is this going to be the couple that can fight through this season, or is it just doomed to end on a bad note sooner rather than later?
Oh, it's definitely doomed. Like they're happy, but they're like again near towards the end of the episode when beautiful with the spotlights, just
Yeah.
fantastic
Yep.
work.
Yep.
She didn't look happy, so we're gonna see what happens in the new year because I don't think that's gonna last. And I think it was the grandmother that spoke about love at the beginning of this episode and saying either like getting too attached. I forgot the line, but they did touch upon that love can harm you in different ways or something like that, and it'll affect you differently. And I think that that's going to be a major player, considering obviously Jules and Rue, and all the relationships that formed and the different dynamics. So I think that's going to be a really central part to this, and we'll see what happens with Kat, but I don't think it's going to last.
Yeah, I think she's the relationship. She might not be a relationship person. She might want to, explore different things, as we know from the first season. But the movie man, do you think Kat and Ethan can make it through and be the rock and the foundation of couples to inspire to be, or is it just a matter of time where things are going to break?
I would love to see them make it, but the nature of this show will not allow them to do that. So
Yeah.
you always have to be conscious of we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. We're always waiting to see what's around the corner. So of course there has to be something. And I think that Kat, with complications, in the first season has kind of become a self-reliant, kind of independent woman, kind of developing her, I don't know, like her personal view of self and how, and making money and having this presence online. Although there are obviously some conflicts internally as far as how that makes her feel or how she, I could see some moments. I think there was a moment somewhere where Maddie just kind of rips her apart. She's saying like, "I miss who you used to be."
Yeah,
Like
when she was being very nonchalant and brushing her off. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
when you become such a mean, hateful person. And so I
Yep.
think with Ethan, it's her kind of tapping back into that.
Mhm.
But there's still that other side that she's explored, and so it's too easy to jump back in, even if
Yeah.
it's just the allure of money or fame or just, hey, everybody, this is Kat. You guys know who I am. So yeah, I
Yep.
think that's not over.
And it's interesting too. Ethan's one of the few characters too that we really don't know who his parents are. We know he has a sister because that was the whole complication when at the carnival, that he has a sister that is a little bit older. But maybe Ethan isn't as nice and perfect as we might have think he is. Because it was such a great line too last season, the finale. If one of us gets hurt, I hope that it's me, type of thing. But I don't know. Maybe Ethan has some skeletons in the closet that we can maybe explore this season. There's so many characters, so many pieces on the chessboard. It'll be really interesting to see the screen time. But wrapping up the episode, I think we can get to the love story, to the two main characters, Amanda, Rue, and Jules. They come together. If you didn't see the special, this would be the first time them come together after she left on the train. But if you did see the special, Rue and Jules had a conversation in Jules's episode. But your thoughts on immediately Jules knows she's relapsed, and they have their little conversation, and then they, we'll talk about that beautiful cinematography, but ultimately I think it's safe to say that they're now back together. Is that a good thing, Amanda? Rue and Jules?
No, it's not a good thing. I could not stand that. Like once it got past the kiss in the first season, that's when I started to really dislike Jules, because you can tell that there's that vibe between them in season 1, and that Rue likes her more than that, and it just, everything that she did, all the choices that Jules made with Rue, like it bothered me so much in the first season, and to carry that out here, and Rue wanting to go back to that place with her, knowing that nothing's guaranteed in this life, like you're just going to keep going into this cycle, and it's just not healthy for her, because again, as she said, the highs are highs and the lows are really low. So with someone like Jules, who will do something at the drop of a hat and change her mind, there's no control there, and there's no relationship that will work in that case, considering where both of their mental headspace is at separately and then together. So I think that's just a very toxic relationship, and I don't think it's good for Rue whatsoever.
D-Man, are we on the same page? Because I have my thoughts. I think Jules' dad said it perfect. I think she is a good influence to an extent to Rue. But obviously, like Amanda said, there is some toxicity and there's some things that I think they both have to figure out individually before they can come together as a couple. But the movie man, what's your thoughts on this? The lead couple, the leads of the show coming back together.
Uh, I want to believe in Rue and Jules, and I think there was something very I don't know, there was something very touching or something very somewhat to an extent inspiring about Rue having something kind of break through the misery and the bleakness of her life that is also been compounded by this drug addiction and all that. So seeing someone kind of break through, like, hey, I am this bright light. I'm this person who is kind of the antithesis of everything that you see and experience on a day-to-day basis. I could appreciate that, but as we went on, just kind of seeing the and it's hard to say because you have to kind of get inside the head of the character, but it just felt like there were it's difficult for me to get into relationships where if they feel one-sided and there's this constant kind of like back and forth and I'm not sure and maybe we should be together but maybe we won't. And I like I said, I was rooting for them, but I don't know what it would take for them to be in a healthy working relationship. And I think there are too many external factors that are going to keep them apart. And I felt like the fact that it's so easy to just like, oh, okay, because I actually thought it was a daydream at first. I thought it was like I'm imagining and what would happen. So I'm like, oh no, I went home and I didn't say anything. So the fact that it's like, oh no, we're back together, I'm like, that's too easy. So we haven't even worked through like like we haven't gotten into the depth of the problems in this relationship. So yeah.
No, I agree. It's a very complicated relationship, and someone, as they mentioned here, and again, that episode to me did make me less of a. It made me actually kind of care and understand Jules a little bit more because I think, as you mentioned, Amanda, it was so one sided kind of in the season. It was Rue that kissed Jules first. It was Rue that seemed to be more in love with Jules. But then when you see her special, it was actually kind of the reverse. Jules was very into Rue very early on, but she was hesitant. She never kissed a girl before. She'd never been that close to a girl before, as we learned in her special.
Right.
And it was such a different, relationship between her and Rue. So, and also too, going back to her mom being an addict, that's why she was so like, Rue, if we're going to be together, you can't do drugs because she has this history with her mom being an addict, which will be interesting to see if her mom comes back in the season. So it's complex, and that's all the relationships are, but it will be very interesting to see how this plays out. And like we mentioned earlier, Elliot now in the picture is that going to get Rue less into Jules and all that stuff. So it's going to be very interesting. But we got in this episode on the ringside, knockout king, Fez. So to set the scene, and I want to start with you, the movie man. We see Fez, he has his moment. He tells Lexi, this was the best moment all year for me. I appreciate this moment, but I got to handle some business. So we see him walk over to Nate very casually. Hey, what's up, playboy? You make any resolutions? And oh, this is interesting. Last time we talked, you say he's going to kill me. It's a new year. New year, new me. Not quite, because again, we got to understand Nate. He was the Joffrey of the last season. He blackmailed that Tyler character, which Tyler he did. Yeah, obviously we know what he did in season 1, but obviously to play that the way he did and beat him up, steal his clothes, all this stuff was just psycho level Nate.
Yep.
What he did to Jules. What he did to Fez with the whole raiding of his house. You don't know what could have happened if he would have got called and his grandmother and his obviously ashtray. So that meant a lot to him. So it was well overdue. D movie man, take it over. We see bottle over the head and boom, bow, bow, boom, boom, bow. Nate deserved that ass whooping, my friend. The stage is yours, D movie man. How did you feel when Nate got that 1-2 piece combo?
Oh yes, the 1-2 piece. Listen, I knew we kept getting way too many shots of Fez looking over at Nate. It was constant. It was constant. I'm like, either we are just foreshadowing that at some point, if not this episode, that this is gonna happen, and I still got you in my crosshairs, or is going to happen in this episode. And as soon as he walked over, there was like a split second where I was like, the only reason I thought it might not happen is because it might be kind of like I'm going to lure you into a false sense of security, which he did, but I thought it was going to be more of a continuous thing.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw the bottle, I was like, that bottle is about to make contact with you. And that is exactly what happened. And even and as soon as I saw the boom, like I guess I shouldn't feel. I guess I shouldn't feel bad, but it's just I was kind of like I felt my heart lifted in that moment. I felt relief. And it was almost like a complete parallel moment with like the young man that he beat up in the first season and all that punch. And I was just like, like we have come full circle, and now we are in that position now. And it even went further than I thought it would. And like I'm like, is your face still remotely intact? Are there any bones left to break? Like, yes. So this is what I needed. Totally different.
Before I toss it to you, Amanda, just the movie, man, consequences. If you were to put the theory hat on and predict Nate after he comes to his senses, a week or 2 month, whoever the ramifications of that ass whooping is to be, but will there be consequences? Will Nate come for Fez, Ashtray, Lori, Lexi, you name it? Was it a mistake by Fez?
It was not a mistake, but it was a mistake, if that makes sense. Like his desire to do that, why he did it, and actually doing it. No, it was not a mistake. But given the consequences, I think we'll see why it was a mistake to do that. And the problem with Nate is that whatever wiring is going on up here, there's just something in his brain that does not allow him to say like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should let this go, or let me just take my L in peace, or maybe I should be a better person. It's just like, no, it's almost like if you've seen hummingbirds or bees and how like they have this like go, like they're creatures and animals, and I think some people who are wired to just like not stop, even though you have gone past the point of no return and you have done unimaginable things. It's just like I think Nate is just it will only rev him up more to be like, oh, okay, so playtime is over, and I'm not really happy about that.
Yeah, we'll see. Amanda, tossing to you, just again setting up the stage. Fez comes over, kind of like the movie man said. He was, hey, what's up, man? It's a new year. We out in the party. We think in the mindset that maybe Fez just had that great interaction with Lexi that he's not going to go to that level, but family comes first. And again, he messed with Rue, or he messed with Rue, was obviously in exchange messed with Jules, messed with him and his business and his family, and he put his family at risk with him calling the cops and snitching on him. That ass whipping was deserved. But again, the same question I have for D is the consequences. After what he did to Nate, what are the consequences for those actions, if any?
Yeah, it's gonna be bad because Nate is just a crazy person. I think that Fez is gonna be alienated just because of how many people helped Nate, kind of like propped him up, and like I feel like he's gonna be alienated, and Lexi's gonna be the one to kind of go to him and see if he's okay and all of that. But it's going to be a rift between, I think, maybe Cassie and Lexi in that case, because Cassie's like literally with Nate. So I think because they were already fighting, and we don't know what they were fighting about in the car too at the beginning of the episode. So we'll see how that turns out. But I think the sisters are going to be at odds. I don't know what Nate's gonna do. I think it's gonna be 10 times worse than what happened season 1. But for me, that was like just the best moment of the whole episode. I cannot stand Nate as a character. He's I hate him so much. And I was just so happy when he was beating him. And I actually sat up in my chair when Fez told Ashtray to go start the car. I'm like, is he doing it? Is he gonna run away right after he beats him? So I was so excited. That's when it clued in. I'm like, wait a minute, why would he go tell him that he's still not there in the car? So I was just like, oh my God, what an interaction. God bless Fez. What a killer episode. And yeah, I'm happy that happened to Nate. So
just thinking about when you brought up he's gonna be something worse. I think he's gonna somehow get protective custody or get some child endangerment, something against Fez with Ashtray and get the people in there to take him
Ooh,
away. And that's going to
yeah.
crush him because obviously we know that's his brother. He's been taking care of him since he was a
Yeah.
baby. Nate, he's I don't think that was a good. It was like you always said. It was such a great moment because we all been wanting him to get that ass whooping. But I think there's going to be some serious consequences to
Yep.
those actions. But we'll see. We got another. I think this is another 8 episode season. I can't wait to dive deeper into these characters, new relationships, old relationships, and just go on this journey of euphoria. That if it's anything like season 1, we got another banger on our hands. And based on this first episode, this looks going to be a very very interesting season. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's our discussion of this new episode, this new season, what we hope to see, and all the things that we talked about. And I want to thank Amanda and D Movie Man for joining me tonight. Hopefully we can do more of these in the future talking about this show. But I really appreciate you guys both joining me tonight. So Amanda, starting with you, outroing out as far as, again, you know, I always appreciate you. You know, we got our Marvel break for a little bit.
Yeah.
Apparently Moon Knight might be coming in another month. We'll see.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we got so much stuff to look forward to. But Amanda, if you want to let people at home know what's next on the YouTube, on your your website, and all the great stuff you have lined up for the fine folks at home.
Yeah, for sure. Well, E, thank you so much for having me tonight. D, it was so great meeting you as well. It was a great discussion. You guys can always follow me over at AMXND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I have a couple of screeners from Netflix. I think I have My House, I think, that I have to watch. And the Royal Treatment to watch as well. So those are on my list. But theaters are closed here in Ontario. So I literally can't watch Scream, and that's the only one that I was looking forward to this month. So I'll work around and see what happens there. But you guys can always check out my website, candidcinema.com, and my YouTube, Candid Cinema. Have some reviews for you guys. And yeah, this was fun.
Amanda, I did not know that they closed cinemas in Canada. I feel so bad for you because I know you're a big Scream fan, and it comes out this week. That sucks.
Yeah,
That truly sucks,
yeah.
Amanda. But I'm like I said, I'm sure you'll figure something out, whether it be a screener link, hopefully, or something. You drive up to the US and go to New York and check it out or something.
Yeah.
Or New York shut down too. It's just something.
See?
Can we figure this out, world? Can we figure it out? But Amanda, thank you again. And again, we'll definitely more conversations to be had in the future for this show and of course our Marvel conversation. So D Movie Man, like I said up top, man, been a fan of yours for a while. Love your opinions on these shows and movies and all the positivity you bring on this platform. So I'm so appreciative to have you on tonight, my friend. So if you want to let the fine folks at home know where they can find you and what's next for D Movie Man on your YouTube channel.
Yes, so you guys can find me once again. That is on YouTube. That is capital D period, and then capital M Movie Man. That's all one word. You also can find me on Instagram. It's just D Movie Man, no caps all together. And then on Twitter, which is Movie Man D. I recently, actually just a few days ago, did a personal retrospective on my journey through YouTube through 2020 and 2021, which were very formative years. And if you're obviously through this conversation, you guys are being introduced to me, you guys can check that out and just learn, what my journey has been like, what I'm about, what I appreciate about YouTube, the pros and cons and all of that. Hoping to just get into more films that are coming up, more reviews, hoping to recap The Gilded Age that is coming out at the end of the month. So excited about that. Excited to recap Bridgerton, which is coming in March. And just continuing to have, more reactions, more rankings, more reviews, and, just more of that coming this year because there's a lot that we have to look forward to.
Yeah, man, it's so much. And I'm so excited to see your coverage on those shows and other things you just mentioned. And it's, again, fingers crossed, we don't go through what we went through last year with movies and theaters and all that. And we can just, come together and figure this out and get back to the stuff that we love. But in the meantime, we got some great TV. So, that we can watch at home. So again, Amanda, D Movie Man, I appreciate you both. Like Amanda said, as far as coverage this week on this channel, we got Scream coming this week. We got Peacemaker, for my DC fans, which Amanda, us in DC, it's just like, man,
There's like
every
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 time.
day is something new, something new. But I'm looking forward to Peacemaker, and also Ozark. From Ozark fans, it's coming out in 2 weeks. I cannot wait for season 4 of that, in the last season, or part 1 of the final season. So definitely keep an eye out for that, and of course more coverage on this wonderful show Euphoria. So for myself, Amanda, and D, Movie Man, we appreciate every single one of you all. Again, like, share, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channels, and you all stay safe and have a great week. We'll catch you on the next one.